Good morning. We are witnessing 2959th lecture of Bangalore Science Forum. A warm welcome to you all. A hearty welcome to the guest speaker today, Dr. JAGADISHA TIRTHAHALLI, on behalf of National College and Bangalore Science Forum. It's my privilege to introduce Dr. JAGADISHA TIRTHAHALLI, Professor and Head of the Department of Psychiatry at the National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, NIMHANS. He has been a faculty member of NIMHANS since 2002. Born in Tirthahalli, he completed his MBBS from Mysore Medical College and his MD in Psychiatry from NIMHANS. He also worked as a faculty member of Kasturba Medical College, Manipal. He pursued postdoctoral fellowship at the Washington University School of Medicine in the USA. Along with treating patients with various mental health conditions, Dr. Jagdish is deeply involved in research. His areas of interest include electroconvulsive therapy, transcranial magnetic stimulation, and the long-term outcomes of serious psychiatric disorders. His contributions have been widely recognized with several prestigious awards, including the Sir C.V. Raman Young Scientist State Award by the Government of Karnataka and the Dr. Vimla Vermani Award of the National Academy of Medical Sciences and the Professor Raghuram Young Distinguished Teacher Award. Dr. Jagdish has authored more than 350 publications in peer-reviewed journals, written around 20 book chapters, and edited 5 books. He is also a fellow of the National Academy of Medical Sciences, India. We are honored to have him with us today, and I invite you all join me in welcoming Dr. Jagdish Tirthahalli.
ಗುಡ್ ಮಾರ್ನಿಂಗ್, ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ. ಕನ್ನಡ ಬರ್ತದಲ್ಲ ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ? ಕನ್ನಡ ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷ್ ಎರಡೂ ಸ್ಲೈಡ್ಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷಲ್ಲಿದೆ, ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಧ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಅಡಿಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಏನೊಂದು ಗೊತ್ತಾ ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ? ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಲೈಡ್ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಸ್ಲೈಡ್ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅಡಿಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಂದ್ರೇನು? ಅಡಿಕ್ಷನ್ ಏನು ನಿಮಗೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಸುಲಭ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ, ನನಗೂ ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾಗಿ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ come up with anything that you know What is addiction? You can answer in English or Kannada. No idea? I'm sure all of you know something or the other. As I said, there is no right or wrong answers. I want to just know what you think of addiction. No? Nobody wants to tell anything about addiction? Yes.
Obsessed with something like which you cannot get it out of your life or something.
Right. So always obsessed with something and always thinking about or doing something without or kind of ignoring all other aspects. That's a very good feature of addiction. Anybody else? You've not heard of people who are addicted? Sorry? So they are addicted, so they are hesitant to say that. Okay. ಚಟ ಅದೇ ಯಾವ್ದಾದ್ರು ಒಂದು ಅಭ್ಯಾಸನ ಬಿಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗದೇ ಇರೋದನ್ನು ಅಡಿಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ನಾವು ಹೆಚ್ಚಾಗಿ ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರೂ ಮಾದಕ ದ್ರವ್ಯಗಳಿಗೆ ಅಥವಾ ಅಡಿಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಯಾವ ಥರದ ವಿಚಾರಗಳಿಗೆ ಯಾವ ಥರದ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸಸ್ಗೆ ಅಡಿಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿರ್ತಾರೆ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದಾ? ವಾಟ್ ಆರ್ ದ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸಸ್ ದಟ್ ಪೀಪಲ್ ಆರ್ ಅಡಿಕ್ಟೆಡ್ ಟು? Phone. Okay. Phone addiction is one. Very good. Alcohol addiction is there. Drugs are there. Very good. So now you have found your voice. Very nice. Drugs are there. Alcohol is there. Phone addiction is there. What else? Cigarettes, tobacco. Okay. And weed. You would have heard of weed. Some of you must be using. No? Sorry? Online gaming, gambling. Many such addictions are there. Okay. So, if anybody uses alcohol, will we call that as person being addicted to alcohol? No. Not just using once or twice is not addiction. Right? What is addiction then? When do we call a person as having addiction with alcohol? Not being able to avoid it. So, what you are trying to say is that the person gets a compulsion to drink it all the time. Then we call it as addiction. If somebody takes it once in a while, once in a month, once in parties, etc., you don't think we should call that person as addict. Is that correct? Okay. So we got two, three answers now. One, thinking all the time about it, not being able to focus on anything else is one feature of addiction. Secondly, not being able to stop it. Even when a person wants to stop it is also one feature of addiction. What happens when they stop? Do you know? They cannot control themselves. Okay? What happens? Control, if they lose control, what happens? They get irritated, right? They get stressed. They get disturbed. Very good. Anything else? Anger issues. The person can become very angry, irritation, stressed out. Sorry? They crave for it. Very good. So, what is craving? What is craving and what is desire? Correct. So, All of us want, like you want to get good marks. So that's not craving. If one is mad about something, all the time wanting to have it, and the desire is so much that you can ignore anything for that, then it's called craving, right? So craving is one more feature of addiction. Anything else? Okay. So since all of you know, I can stop the lecture. Isn't it? So all of them know about the topic? Okay. What I am going to do today is to know the science behind it. Okay. So this is Bangalore Science Forum lecture. So I have to talk more about science of it, and I am trying to make it simple for you so that all of you can understand what I am talking about. So can I play the video now? One small animated video of about 5 minutes. Hello. Sound ಬರ್ತದಲ್ಲ? Okay. So what did you learn from this? I think it is looping. Anybody wants to tell anything? What did we observe in this? Was it too complex? Anybody? Yes? There are a few very simple messages in this video. Okay, we'll split it. What happens when the bird drinks that substance first time? Right. So even when we know that it hurts to use that substance, the bird continues to, obsessively use that. Okay, that is one thing. So what happens for the first time when the bird drinks that? Sorry? Very good. It's a high of dopamine, you said, right? So it feels high. Okay. How much high? A lot. Okay. It is blissful. Right? It is almost like floating in the sky and having a very good experience. What happens second time? Same thing happens. Third time? Same thing? To same extent? No. Maybe you can watch it later. It is a YouTube, we can share with you the YouTube link, and you can see that each time, the next time the bird uses the same substance, the effect starts coming down, and it lasts for very brief time, and in the end it does not feel anything. Even if it drinks it, it's simply waste. Okay, it doesn't feel any high, but it has to compulsively drink it. Okay, so that is the basics of what we can understand about addiction to any substances, right? So if you watch this video and you can read the reactions to that, many people who are addicted to different substances as well as different addictions like gambling, gaming, etc., they will write that this is exactly how I felt. Okay, this is exactly how I felt. This video is very good. It depicts what happens to a person who is addicted. All right? Okay, we'll go further. Okay, so these are the core features of addiction. One is you will need more of what gives you pleasure. The same amount does not give you the pleasure. Okay, that you saw in the video also. The same amount it drank, but it did not give it the same degree of pleasure. It is called, what is it called? Tolerance. Next, you will feel miserable when you don't use what gives you pleasure. Okay, we also discussed about this. This is called withdrawal, right? You will continue to use it to avoid misery and not to have pleasure. Initially, when we use it, when we use anything new which is addictive, we feel the pleasure, we feel the high. After some time, we use it, we drink alcohol. I'll take the example of alcohol for simplicity, or smoking for simplicity. We will feel miserable when we don't drink. So we will drink, we will continue to drink not because it gives you pleasure, but if you don't use it, you will feel miserable. To avoid that, we continue to drink. And your world revolves around what gives you pleasure. It is called salience. That is what that girl was saying, that your whole world is around that substance. So your ability to enjoy other things comes down. Okay, let's say you are enjoying sport, you are enjoying drawing, you are enjoying movies or hanging around with friends. All those things starts giving you less pleasure. You can get pleasure only by using that substance. So these are core features of addiction: tolerance, withdrawal, and salience. Okay, this happens to any addiction, be it technology addiction, be it cigarettes, be it ganja. Okay, anything you talk, these are the features. Now the bottom line is, what starts off as pleasure becomes a pain, right? Initially it gives you pleasure, but over time it becomes painful. Now what is the science? Why does this happen? This is what I am going to talk. So addiction is a complex phenomenon. It is not a very simple science experiment that we can do in physics lab or chemistry lab. So it is very complex. I am trying to make an attempt to make it simple. So what I am going to say is very simple, but it is more complex than that. There are biological reasons, psychological reasons, and social reasons for addiction. Okay, I am focusing only on biological because this is a science forum. So I can focus on science. If you want to discuss about psychological and social aspects, we can discuss it later. Now, there is some biology to feeling good. Okay, what happens when you do something that you like? For example, when you eat something that you like a lot, a nice ice cream, okay, or do something that is thrilling, let's say bungee jumping, or going in a giant wheel, right? That is thrilling. Or ride a bike very fast, that gives you the kick, right? So that is thrilling. Or listen to your favorite music or somebody praises you. In all these things, you feel good. Is that correct? Okay. My question is, where do you feel good? Where? I mean, which part of your body? Sorry? Brain. Okay, where in the brain? Soul. Do you know? I mean, all of us do this all the time, right? We enjoy, we feel happy, we feel pleasure. Where do we feel the pleasure? Okay. So that brings us to what is known as neurotransmission. Okay. It is our mind is basically driven by our brain, and the brain communicates within itself through what are called as, what are these, do you know? Neurons. Okay. Neurons communicate to each other through synapses. I think many of you know, biology students. So in the synapses, what are released? Neurotransmitters. Okay. So brain areas communicate through neurons. Now feeling good involves release of certain neurotransmitters in certain brain areas. Somebody already told that answer. Which is the neurotransmitter which gives you a high? Dopamine. So I am very happy that it is there in the common parlance. Many people know that dopamine is there is a small correction, but I will come to that. But you are very right in thinking that dopamine is the neurotransmitter that causes you the high. That happens irrespective of the source of pleasure. Okay? Whether you drink and feel pleasure, or whether somebody praises you and you feel the pleasure, or you watch a thrilling movie and feel the pleasure. In any of these things, what makes you feel good is the release of some of the neurotransmitters. It is called the reward system. There is a system, there is a set of cells, neurons in the brain, which are called as reward system. That is the place where we all feel the pleasure. The brain itself has some drugs. Okay? They are called you can imagine why they called this substance as anandamide. Okay? It is actually derived from the Sanskrit word ananda. Okay? It is there in our body, it is there in our brain, naturally. All of us have this. Anandamide, endorphins, enkephalins, right? These are the neurotransmitters which are released when we feel good, and that gives us ananda or pleasure, right? So feeling good means activation of these systems. Okay, you can see here, this is a place called, this is the midbrain part of it. It is called as ventral tegmental area. This is a place called amygdala, where we feel the emotions. The neurotransmitters, all these neurotransmitters get released in these places. Okay? And some of the neurons go from this ventral tegmental area to nucleus accumbens, and they are all released in this system. That is when we feel good. There is something about prefrontal cortex. I will come to that in a while. It is a part of the reward system, but the importance of prefrontal cortex I will talk to you later. This system also is associated with the dopamine rush. Okay? So there is a slight difference between these neurotransmitters and dopamine. They happen together, but there is a slight difference. I will tell you in the next few slides. So the drugs of abuse like alcohol, smoking, ganja, heroin, cocaine, all those things which gives us pleasure, to which we get addicted, all of them use the same reward system. Okay? This is where we feel the pleasure or feel the high. Now what happens when the pleasurable things are done repeatedly? Same thing we repeat. Okay? Then what happens? There are two things that will happen. One is called tolerance. The other one is called conditioning. Okay? I will come to the science behind these two things. Now coming to tolerance. Okay? Now you see here, these are neurons on which there are multiple receptors. These red ones are called receptors, on which the anandamide and enkephalins, etc., they sit and they give us the pleasure. If you keep on doing the same pleasurable thing, what happens to these red things? They decrease in number. Okay? You can see that this neurotransmitter is the same, the number of neurotransmitters are the same, but number of receptors starts coming down, less and less. So you will need more of the pleasurable things to produce the same effect. Okay? So the same dose of alcohol or 1 or 2 cigarettes will not give you the pleasure, because the neurotransmitters are less, the receptors are less. That is called down regulation. So this happens, this down regulation happens anything. Like if you enjoy a song, let's say, you listen to the same song 10 times, 15 times, 100 times, you start getting bored, right? So that is why that happens because of this. But with technology, that is phone addiction and substance use addiction, this down regulation happens very rapidly, and very soon you stop enjoying the substance. Second thing is called conditioning. Do you know this experiment? It is there in high school, I guess. Anybody knows the name of the scientist who did this experiment? No? This is called Pavlov's experiment. Isaac Pavlov did this experiment on a dog. Okay. What he did was, he offered food to a dog, As soon as the dog saw the food, what happens? It salivates. Okay? The next thing that he does is just rings a bell. When he rings the bell, dog does not salivate. Right? Then what he does is, every time he gives the food, he rings the bell. Every time he gives this food, he also rings the bell. Then what happens? It salivates. It is not salivating because of the bell, but it is salivating because of the food. Okay? He does this over about a month. Then he just rings the bell. Then what happens? It starts salivating. Though the bell has no meaning, the dog has got conditioned to this bell. Okay? So, the dogs don't think, but their system has learnt that bell means food. So, it starts salivating even without food. Okay? This is called conditioning. Okay? Have you understood this? Right. So, some neurotransmitters are released even when there is no real reasons. Okay? It is salivating because it is getting those dopamine rush even when that bell is rung. Okay? But these two things, tolerance and conditioning, happen in different systems. Now the experience of pleasure or enjoyment, the pleasure system gets down regulated. So if the person keeps on drinking or smoking, he will get less and less pleasure. But what happens to the motivation to have the pleasure? That is wanting or craving. Okay, that is dependent on the dopamine system. Now, dopamine system gets conditioned. That is, any cue, anything that reminds the person of that pleasure or the substance, there is an intense desire to have the pleasure. For example, smell of the alcohol or smoke, sight, company, that is friends who drink alcohol, environment where they drink alcohol, or even the thought of drinking alcohol will cause dopamine rush. That means the person wants to use that substance because of this. Because all these things get conditioned with alcohol. Just like Pavlovian experiment where he simply rings the bell, then the dog salivates, right? Similarly, even when alcohol is not there, any of these things makes the person crave for it. Okay, there is dopamine rush and he wants to use alcohol. So more and more of it gives us less and less pleasure, but our desire to have it becomes more and more. Over time, what happens? The drinking or smoking gives the person less and less pleasure. He does not enjoy it as much as he did it in the first time, but his desire to have it becomes more and more. He cannot control the desire. Most people who have addiction say something like this: I know that this does not give me pleasure, but I cannot stop using it as I cannot control my desire to have it. Okay? What happens is the pleasure system has down regulated, but his whole dopamine system has gotten conditioned to it. So he craves for it, he takes the substance, but he does not enjoy it. So that is how he gets into the loop of using it in spite of not having any pleasure out of it, or in spite of having a danger of using it. Now, what is salience? So the substances engage the pleasure neurotransmitters. They engage it stronger than the activities that us give feel good experience. What I mean is, over time what happens is other activities like art, sports, meeting friends, movies, etc. gives us less pleasure because they cannot compete with the high that the substance is giving. Okay? As I said, the pleasure neurotransmitters give us happiness when we do any of these things also. But they are no comparison to the high that the substances give. That smoking or drinking gives us, there is no match. So what happens is, you start, the addictive behaviors become the central point of daily activities, and there is loss of motivation to engage in other activities because they don't give any pleasure. Only the substance gives you pleasure, right? That makes the person always seek for the pleasure which is higher than your regular things that you used to enjoy earlier. That starts coming down, and you the substance or the addictive behavior becomes the central point of your life. Now there are something called withdrawal symptoms. Some substances cause severe withdrawal symptoms when you stop it. For example, if a person who is drinking, addicted to alcohol, when he stops taking alcohol, then he suffers from sleeplessness, tremors, severe fear and anxiety, even hallucinations. If you come to NIMHANS, you can see any day a few people who have stopped alcohol and they have been brought because they are experiencing some of these things. And you can see them. They are talking to somebody, they are seeing something, they are trying to catch something because they get hallucinations. That is, seeing things when they are not there. Okay? That happens with the withdrawal symptoms. If a person who is addicted to tobacco stops that, suddenly what they get are irritability, they feel low, they become depressed, their inability to concentrate. They can do that only when they take the smoke. Okay? So without that, they feel all these problems. Opioids, that is heroin, opium, etc., when they stop it, there is severe body pain, diarrhea, the person keeps on yawning and loses sleep. And this body pain can be so severe that the person can do anything to get the substance. Some people even murder other people to get money to go for the drugs, right? So this is what happens with withdrawal symptoms. But when they suffer from withdrawal symptoms, if they get the substance, then what happens? It gives them immediate relief from these suffering. Okay? They get, now I am free of these problems, right? Now, I'm saying this because of some psychological mechanisms of addiction is there. That is, you should know something called as reinforcement. Okay? What is reinforcement? Reinforcement is any action that increases a behavior. Okay? You want to ensure that a child studies well. What do? Many teachers and many parents do this. If you study well, I will give you a chocolate. Okay? In the anticipation of chocolate, the child studies well. Okay? So chocolate becomes a reinforcement. So reinforcement is something that increases any behavior, right? So it can be positive reinforcement. That is, you provide something pleasant to increase the behavior, like praise, reward, pleasure, etc. Okay? So you tell the child, okay, I am very happy you studied today. The child gets motivated to study again. So these are called as positive reinforcement. You give something so that the child's behavior increases. Then there is something called negative reinforcement. Negative reinforcement also increases the behavior, but it does that by removing something unpleasant. Okay? Like relief from the pain or bad mood, relief from withdrawal symptoms. Okay? So, when a person is addicted, he stops the substance, what happens to him? He suffers from withdrawal symptoms. Okay? It is very painful to get that. So the moment he drinks, he gets pleasure. He gets relief from the withdrawal symptoms. That reinforces which behavior? Drinking behavior. It works as a negative reinforcement and it drives him to do that thing again and again. Right? So it has been also done in animal experiments. Okay, there are experiments where a mouse is kept in a cage and a small electric current is given to the mouse. It is a little bit unpleasant or painful. There are many levers that the mouse can touch. Only if it touches a few levers, the current will stop and it is relieved of that pain. Okay? Over time, what happens? The mouse quickly learns which lever to press to get rid of the withdrawal, get rid of the electric shock. Okay? So, man also behaves the same way. The moment he learns that stopping alcohol causes me withdrawal symptoms and drinking it relieves me, that behavior of drinking becomes more and more, it gets reinforced. So, positive is pleasure experienced during consumption. That also increases. People drink more because they get pleasure. People also drink because there is elimination of withdrawal symptoms. Both of these things happen. But the thing that we should remember is that initial days, when people start using alcohol or smoking for the first time, the initial few days, there is positive reinforcement. That is, I consume because this gives me pleasure. But over time, what happens? There is negative reinforcement. That is, I consume it because withdrawal symptoms bother me. Okay? The person doesn't consume because it is pleasurable. He consumes it because he cannot tolerate the withdrawal symptoms. So he stops enjoying, but his life revolves around avoiding the withdrawal symptoms. Now, effect of age, and why am I talking to people who may not be using any substances? Many of you may not even tried once any of these. Why am I talking to you? It is because there is a very important role that age plays. I told you that I will speak a little more about prefrontal cortex that time. Okay? Prefrontal cortex is also part of the reward system. What it does is, the prefrontal cortex is a part of the brain which reasons, thinks, and analyzes things, right? And it keeps the emotions and impulses in check. It controls the urge to do something, or it controls any action that we want to do. The prefrontal cortex is the thinking part of it. It will say whether this is good to do or bad to do, etc. It is some kind of a monitor that controls your behavior. So, as I said, the pleasure system is here, and the prefrontal cortex has some kind of a controlling role on these aspects. So, what happens how is the brain of young people like you? The reward system is something like an accelerator. Okay? You can see this. This system is very powerful. This arrow is very thick and very powerful. But prefrontal cortex, which is something like a brake, is a weak brake. Right? So you have a system where the reward system is strong, but prefrontal cortex is still maturing. It is like car being driven with full accelerator and poor braking system. Right? So young people, when they use substances, their reward system is very powerful. It is like an accelerator. Whereas the braking system, which is prefrontal cortex, is still maturing. Up to about 25 years, it keeps maturing. So it is very dangerous for young people to start using any substances. It is dangerous for even older people to use that, but for young people, because of this heavy accelerator and very weak braking system, driving in a car which has only accelerator and no brake will lead to accidents, right? So that is what will happen if young people start using substances. Look at this data, okay? At what age, if they start using the substances, they get addicted. If they use it before 14, nearly 52% of them get addicted. Whereas if they drink or use it for the first time, about 10%, even 10%, 9% is a very high number, but still compared to 52%, it is very low. Okay? So one should not use any substances, but if at all you do it very late in your age. Okay? Don't use substances when you are young. Just stay away from that. Because it drives you into addiction very fast. Which kind of people? I mean, if many people use alcohol or smoking, but not all of them become addicted. Why is that? Some adolescents are more vulnerable for the use of substances. Okay? As I told you, the role of prefrontal cortex, amygdala, etc., they develop differently in different children. Okay? Now, children from unhappy or disturbed families, children with developmental issues. Have you heard of the term ADHD? Anybody? It is in the young people, many young people know this. It is called attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Okay? These kids who have ADHD they are known as tarle in the class. Okay? Many of you I think some of your friends have this. Okay? They can't sit still. They have to talk to somebody. Even when the teacher is speaking, they cannot concentrate. Their mind cannot attend to it. The mind wanders and they keep doing something or the other. Okay? That's a kind of a medical condition called ADHD. Such children are more prone to develop addiction. Those families where there is addiction already, like father is already drinking, uncle is drinking heavily, somebody is smoking, such families children from such families are more likely to drink or use substances. And those with anxiety, those with stress, as young people go through a lot of stress and anxiety, depression, etc. When such people have these problems, they are more prone for addiction. There is an interesting role that genes have in addiction. Okay? I'll illustrate this with an example. Some experiments were done. It may be interesting for you to listen to it. There are some studies called adoption studies. Okay? What happens when children of parents who have addiction are brought up in a different environment? Okay? Let's say I take a person a child whose parents have addiction. Okay? I take that child and bring that child up in a new family or a different environment when nobody drinks. What do you think is the chance that the child develops addiction? At home, parents are drinking, they are addicted. So the child is born in that family, you bring up that child in a different environment altogether. They have higher chances of addiction in spite of being brought in an environment which is away from that family. Why does that happen? Sorry? Genes. The children are born with some genes which make them more prone, more vulnerable to develop addiction. So, even when the child is brought up in a totally different environment, the risk that the child will develop addiction will still remain high as compared to those children, like they have done this also. Children who are born to parents who don't drink at all. And such children are brought up in environment where there is a lot of drinking. Even then, the child may not develop drinking as much as other children. Okay? So genes have a definite role in the development of addiction. You also know about monozygotic and dizygotic twins. Are you aware of these concepts? So monozygotic twins, they look very similar. Even parents find it difficult to say, distinguish between the two twins. Okay? So they are identical twins. And dizygotic twins, you can make out that they are twins, but you can make out that the twins look slightly differently. The difference in their genes is that monozygotic twins they share 100% of the genes, they are equal. Whereas dizygotic twins only share about 50% of their genes. They are like brothers or sisters. But all of them are raised in the same environment, okay? Be it monozygotic, be it dizygotic, they are brought in the same family. Is that correct? Now, what happens if one of the twins develops addiction? Let's say, if one of the twins develops addiction, I will ask you which other twin has more chance of developing addiction? Monozygotic, right? They are brought up in the same environment, but yet if one twin develops addiction, the chances that the other twin also develops addiction depends on how much genes they share. They share higher number of genes, they get more addicted. Okay? So higher chance of developing addiction if the other twin is monozygotic, less chance if the other twin is dizygotic. So this will tell you that genes play a major role in the development of addiction. Genes are important, but it's not all genes. Okay, let's not blame all on the genes. There is some role for the environment also. Like, if a father has addiction to alcohol, the chances that his son will develop addiction is about 20 to 25%. Okay? If we see 100 fathers with alcohol problem, about 20-25% of their children are likely to develop alcohol addiction, which is 4 times more than if there was no alcohol in the family. Okay? If I want to paraphrase it, if I want to say this in a different way, if a father has addiction to alcohol, then the chances that his son will not develop alcohol problem is 75 to 80%. I have just reversed the order. Okay? Even when a child is born in an alcohol consuming family, the chances that the child will not develop alcohol problem is very high. Right? Though it is higher than the other people, it is still good chance that the child will not develop. So there is a huge role that environment also plays. So genes play an important role, but genes play, whatever genes do, interacts with the environment as well. And that is why both genes and environment are equally important in development of addiction. A brief word about behavioral addiction, because when I asked what is addiction, most of you said it is phone addiction, gaming addiction, gambling addiction, etc. The science of this has not developed very much. That is why I didn't focus on that. But whatever I spoke about any addiction also applies to the addiction related to the behaviors. So some addictions are known by professional bodies like the WHO, etc. They are called gambling disorder and gaming disorder. But we have noticed increasingly that there are other problems which are not recognized as disorders. They are excessive use of smartphone, excessive use of internet, and any kind of technology. Okay? So these are called technology addictions. What is similar between them and substance addiction is that biology is same. Similar mechanisms of neurotransmitters, genetics, and environmental risks are there. The key difference is that the good thing is that the magnitude of neurotransmitters involvement is milder. That is, as I said, there are some pleasure neurotransmitters. If I drink, the pleasure neurotransmitters are transmitted very powerfully. But if I play a game which can be addictive, then also the neurotransmitters get transmitted, but not as powerfully as with addiction. With the substance. So, and the addiction develops very slowly. These are the positive aspects of behavioral addiction. But the negative aspects or the concern is that there is widespread availability of and social acceptance to technology use. We can easily tell you to not drink or not smoke. But can we tell you that you should not use any technology? So technology use is acceptable by everybody. Even 1-year-old, 2-year-old kids are also given the mobile phones, right? So nobody gives alcohol at that age. Nobody gives smoking at that age. So the positive aspect is that it is milder, it is less degree of addiction, less degree of neurotransmitter involvement. But the negative aspect is that we cannot control that. Everybody uses, and even if there is 1% of getting addicted, the number of people who get addicted becomes very large. Okay, that is why behavioral addiction is becoming more and more of a problem. What are the consequences of addiction? Can anybody tell? I'm sure you will be able to tell this. What happens when you are addicted? When anybody gets addicted? I want some answers. Yes. One example, which substance, what subject he is getting addicted? Who answered that? Yes, you can tell whatever you thought.
Depends on the substance which we are getting addicted.
If it is alcohol, do you know what happens? What are the problems with alcohol? No idea? Okay, no problem. Anybody else? What are the problems with smoking? Cancer. Okay, so many of you know that smoking is associated with cancer, which is very good. I think India has done a great job by reducing the number of people who smoke. Okay, so there is awareness that smoking causes cancer very, very widely. But I am surprised that nobody knows what are the problems with alcohol. Liver damage, yes. Lungs damage will not happen with alcohol, which happens with smoking. Not much. Kidney also not much. Yes. True. So there is one part of it is on health. Okay, it spoils your health by causing liver problem, lung problem, cancer, etc. But all those things happen much, much later. What young people should know is that it will ruin your life in many other ways. Okay, it will cause problems in many other ways. It gives you pleasure for sure, but it will cause problems in many other ways. Let's see what are those. I'll quickly go through health problems because I thought many of you will know, but very few of you seem to know. Alcohol causes liver cirrhosis, that is hardening of the liver. It becomes very stiff and hard, and later to cancer. It can cause liver cancer. On brain, it causes memory loss, psychosis. I told you about hallucinations, etc. Right? It can cause psychosis and neuropathy. Many people who take alcohol for many years, they come with pain in their hands and feet because of nerve problem called neuropathy. On the stomach, it causes gastritis and vomiting of blood. On the intestines, that is colon, it causes cancer. Smoking, mouth and lungs, cancer is the problem. People who smoke also are more prone for heart attacks or myocardial infarction, as scientifically we call it. High blood pressure and heart attack are the problems with smoking. Many of people who smoke don't know this, right? They know only about cancer. It causes hypertension, it causes heart problem. Many people don't know. Brain, it causes risk of stroke and later dementia. Dementia means losing memory. Okay, so it can cause that also. Marijuana, cannabis, ganja. Okay, many people in Bangalore use this also. It causes psychosis, depression, and a illness called amotivation syndrome. They become totally amotivated. They don't want to do anything in life. They just sit at home and just stare at nothing. Okay, so they can convert them into almost like vegetables. Heroin and injections, they cause liver infection called hepatitis B. Ultimately, that leads to cirrhosis or cancer of the liver. It also causes AIDS. Okay, by what happens when people use injections, they share the needle with each other. Infection from one person goes to the other person. Many people develop these problems. These are the health problems that happens much later. But more important are these consequences. Okay? Drinking causes accidents very frequently. You read any accident news, 50% of them will be under the influence of alcohol. It compromises a person's mental abilities even when you are not using this addictive substance, because it causes changes in the brain and it reduces your ability to concentrate or memorize things. It can cause mental illnesses, as that girl was saying. It can cause depression, psychosis, and dementias. It also causes loss of friends and loneliness, because once you get addicted, people start avoiding you, right? So it can cause many of these consequences, which can happen very quickly. Even this happens. Okay? Many people who are addicted are in jail, or they get into frequent altercations with the law, and they face many of these consequences. You should be aware that this can also happen. So what you should know to avoid addiction, quickly a few things. You should know that prevention is better than cure. You know the facts. I will reiterate, I already told, but I will tell it for your sake once more. Your brain is still developing till you are in mid-20s. Please know this fact. Alcohol, tobacco, vaping and drugs can harm your brain. Please know this fact. Starting young increases the risk of addiction, and anyone can become addicted, right? So you may think that I will use this today, tomorrow I will stop it. You are taking a huge risk by doing this, because anyone can become addicted. It is better that you, to avoid getting addicted, you build your skills. Most important skill that you should know is to say how to say no. Okay? People may offer you, people may say, take one smoke, one fag you take, or just drink a little bit, and you may find it hard to say no. It is very important to know how to say no. Learn to handle stress, anxiety and depression. Find your passion in curricular and extracurricular activities. The real strength is not pleasing someone, but living your values. Okay? You have your dreams, you have your values, you have your goals. Look at them. Okay? Drugs and anything that is addictive is a distraction. So it is important that you focus on your goals. Stay connected. Spend time with friends with healthier habits. Many friends do not have any of these habits, so just hang around with them. Talk to parents and teachers if in doubt. About anything that you have doubts, talk to your teachers and parents. Encourage friends going astray to seek help. If you see somebody drinking or smoking at your age, you can advise them to seek help. You don't have to tell them to stop doing that. You can tell them, why don't you talk to somebody, so that you will not be having trouble with addiction later. Take care of your mind by sleeping adequately, have enough exercise. Yoga also helps. Share your feelings with supportive people. You always have friends with whom you can always share your problems, ask for help if you feel any stress. There are some helpful resources available. Those who are interested can go through some of these. I will leave the slides with them and you can share it with them. There is one number called 14416. Have you heard of it? Okay. This is called Telemanas number. Anybody who wants to talk about their mental health, stress, anxiety, depression, exam difficulty, relationship difficulty, can call this number toll free 24/7 in any language. Okay? 14416. Please store this number and share it with people who have any stress or depression, anxiety that you have. We have what is called as a SHUT clinic, Services for Healthy Use of Technology, in NIMHANS. Anybody who is addicted to mobile phone, technology, internet, etc. can use this. Okay? All right. There I end my talk. I am open to answering any questions if you may have.
ಏನಾದರೂ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ದರೆ ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದು ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸು. ಇದುವರೆಗೂ ಸರ್ ತುಂಬ ಅಡಿಕ್ಷನ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ, ಆಲ್ಕೋಹಾಲ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ, ಸ್ಮೋಕಿಂಗ್ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಈ ಒಂದು ವ್ಯಸನಕ್ಕೆ ಒಳಗಾದಂಥ ಮಕ್ಕಳು, ಅಡಿಕ್ಷನ್ಗೆ ಒಳಗಾದಂಥ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಅಥವಾ ನಮ್ಮ ಸೊಸೈಟಿಲಿರುವಂಥವ್ರು ಯಾರೇ ನೀವು ಕೂಡ ನೋಡಿರ್ತೀರಿ, ಅಥವಾ ನಿಮ್ಮ ನೈಬರ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ರಿಲೇಟಿವ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಈ ಥರಕ್ಕೆ ಸಂಬಂಧಪಟ್ಟಾಗಿ ಏನಾದರೂ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ದರೆ ನೀವು ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದು.
ನನಗೆ ಕೇಳಬೇಕು ಅಂತಿಲ್ಲ, ನಾನು ಕೇಳಿದ್ರು ನಡೀತದೆ, ಇಲ್ಲಾಂದ್ರೆ 14416 ಕೇಳಿದ್ರು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಅವರು. ಎನಿಥಿಂಗ್ ದಟ್ ಯು ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಟಾಕ್ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಆಸ್ಕ್ ದೆಮ್.
ಓಕೆ ಸರ್, ಕೂತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ಸರ್ ಪ್ಲೀಸ್. ಇದುವರೆಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಹಾಂ ಮೇಡಮ್.
You said that it can be genetical also. The addiction can be genetical also. Is there any confirmation tests that you can do whether it is genetical or the de-addiction method is different for genetical or environmental?
Yeah, good question. So, but I don't have an answer. In other words, I cannot test somebody's genes and tell whether this person can get into addiction or not. The science has not moved to that level. What we know is from this kind of experiments, that is, when children are adopted elsewhere, they have found that the gene plays a role. We also know that monozygotic twins have higher chance, but if you search the genes, there is no single gene that is at fault. These kind of conditions are called as polygenic disorders. We consider alcohol addiction as a disease. Just like diabetes, hypertension, heart problem, we consider addiction as a disease. So that's why we call it as a disorder. We call it an alcohol dependence disorder. Now, why I'm saying that is, these conditions are called as polygenic in origin. Multiple small genes have small effect, and that culminates into a person getting addiction. Similar to cancer, similar to diabetes. We know that diabetes is genetic, but there is no single gene for diabetes. We know that cancer is caused by genetics, but we don't know single gene which causes cancer. So it is like that. And treatment wise, yes, we have some medicines which reduce craving, which reduces withdrawal symptoms, etc. People who are more biologically driven for addiction, not so much environmentally driven, it works better on them. But if it is an environmental influence, then medicines may not work. It is the psychological and social work that we do with them that helps them better. There is some other question there? Yes.
Sir, is it true that when we live with a group of they are addicted to some things, so even we think that even we live with them, we think that we won't get addicted, but is it true that if we live with them, we'll also get addicted to that substances what they are addicted to? Even though we think that even I live with them, I'm not gonna attack, but at some point or some extent we think, is it true that we'll get addicted by their?
If you start using it, then very high chance. If you look, I go with all people who drink, but I don't drink. As long as I don't drink, I don't get addicted. At this age, if I start drinking, I may not get addicted as much as you guys do. Okay. So did I answer your question? Yeah. So if you hang around with people who are addicted to substances and not use the substance, then you will not get addicted. If you hang around with them and you start using that, what happens is, in addition to the biological things that I talked about, the scientific things that I talked about, the influence of the group also has a role. So it will be hard for you to say no. Once or twice you use it, third time they say, "Ay, avat banjidella, ivattu banbida," anta karkondu hogbidtare. So that becomes harder and harder. So first thing is, it is better not to get into that kind of company. Even if you do get into company, you can always say that I am a person, I will not touch this. I want your friendship, but I don't want this aspect of your friendship. You can be very nice to them, you respect their positive aspects, but you can always say that this aspect I don't like, and please don't drag me into this. I respect your intelligence, I respect the fact that you are very friendly with me. I want you to talk to me, but I will not use this. This is what you can tell your friends. Anything else? Can I ask dopamine which can cause addiction? Anandamide and enkephalins. Okay. Endorphins. Very good. So I have passed.
ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ಇದುವರೆಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಬ್ಯಾಂಗ್ಳೂರ್ ಸೈನ್ಸ್ ಫೋರಮ್, ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ಸರ್ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ನಿರಂತರವಾಗಿ ನಮ್ಮ NES ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಯಿಂದ ನಿರಂತರವಾಗಿ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿನ ಕಾಲದಿಂದಲೂ ಕೂಡ ನಡ್ಕೊಂಬಂದಿರುವಂಥ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ. ಈ 2959ನೇ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ. ಈ ಸೈನ್ಸ್ ಫೋರಮ್, ಬ್ಯಾಂಗ್ಳೂರ್ ಸೈನ್ಸ್ ಫೋರಮ್ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ಬಹುತೇಕ ಬಂದಂತಹ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸಂಪನ್ಮೂಲ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಗಳು ಭಾಳ ಅದ್ಭುತವಾದ ಸಾಧನೆಗಳನ್ನ ಮಾಡಿರುವಂಥವ್ರೆ. ಇಂದಿನ ಈ ಸೈನ್ಸ್ ಫೋರಮ್ 2959ನೇ ಬ್ಯಾಂಗ್ಳೂರ್ ಸೈನ್ಸ್ ಫೋರಮ್ ಕೂಡ ಅತ್ಯಂತ ಪ್ರಸಿದ್ಧ ಶ್ರೇಷ್ಠ ಸಾಧಕರ ಒಂದು ಸಂಪನ್ಮೂಲ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಗಳಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಜಗದೀಶ್ ತೀರ್ಥಹಳ್ಳಿ, HOD ಸೈಕಾಲಜಿ ಡಿಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್, ನಿಮಾನ್ಸ್, ಇವರು ನಮಗೆ ಬಂದು ಅಡಿಕ್ಷನ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮತ್ತು ಆಲ್ಕೋಹಾಲ್, ಸ್ಮೋಕಿಂಗ್ ಹಾಗೆ ಇನ್ನಿತರ ದುಶ್ಚಟಗಳಿಗೆ ಒಳಗಾಗುವಂತಹ ವ್ಯಸನಿಗಳಿಗೆ ಆಗುವಂಥ ಅವರಿಗಿರುವಂಥ ಸವಾಲುಗಳು, ಅದರಿಂದ ಆಗುವಂಥ ಪರಿಣಾಮಗಳು, ಅದರಿಂದ ಆಗುವಂಥ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆಯ ತೊಂದರೆಗಳೆಲ್ಲವನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಕುರಿತು ಭಾಳ ಸಿಂಪಲ್ ವೇನಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾಳ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ನಮಗೆ ಇಷ್ಟೊತ್ತು ಕೂಡ ತಿಳಿಸ್ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಿಜವಾಗಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ತುಂಬ ಯಶಸ್ವಿಯಾಗಿದೆ. ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಬ್ಬ ಯುವಕರಿಗೂ ಅಥವಾ ಸಮಾಜದ ಎಲ್ಲ ವರ್ಗದ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕ್ಷೇತ್ರದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡುವಂಥ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಗಳು ಕೂಡ ಈ ಥರದ ವಿಷಯ ಚರ್ಚೆ ಆಗಬೇಕಾಗಿದೆ ಮತ್ತು ಅದರ ವಿಷಯದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಭಾಳ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕಾದಂಥ ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆ ಕೂಡ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಈ ಸಂದರ್ಭ ಭಾವಿಸ್ತೀನಿ. ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದು ಭಾಳ ಸರಳವಾಗಿ ನಮಗೆ ವಿಚಾರಗಳನ್ನು ತಿಳಿಸ್ಕೊಟ್ಟಂಥ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಜಗದೀಶ್ ತೀರ್ಥಹಳ್ಳಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ಪರವಾಗಿ, ಕಾಲೇಜಿನ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಹಾಗೂ ನಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಹೃತ್ಪೂರ್ವಕವಾದ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳನ್ನು ತಿಳಿಸ್ತೇನೆ. ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು ಸರ್. ಹಾಗೆ ಇಂಥ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಬಂದಿರತಕ್ಕಂಥ ನಮ್ಮ ನ್ಯಾಷನಲ್ ಎಜುಕೇಷನ್ ಸೊಸೈಟಿ ಆಡಳಿತ ಮಂಡಳಿ ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಕೂಡ ನಮ್ಮ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಗಳಿಗೆ ಬೆನ್ನೆಲುಬಾಗಿ ನಿಂತಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಅವ್ರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಈ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಹೃತ್ಪೂರ್ವಕವಾದ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳನ್ನು ತಿಳಿಸ್ತೇನೆ. ಹಾಗೆ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಆಯೋಜಿಸೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಭಾಳ ಸಹಕಾರ ಕೊಟ್ಟಂಥ ನಮ್ಮ ಕಾಲೇಜಿನ ಪ್ರಾಂಶುಪಾಲರಾದಂತಹ ಮಮತಾ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಕೂಡ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಇಂಥ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಗಳಿಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಜೊತೆಗಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಅವರು ಕೂಡ ಈ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಧನ್ಯವಾದ ತಿಳಿಸ್ತೀನಿ. ಭಾಳ ಪ್ರಮುಖವಾಗಿ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ಸುಚರಿತಾ ಚಂದ್ರ ಎಂ ಮೇಡಮ್, ಇವರು ಈ ಬ್ಯಾಂಗ್ಳೂರ್ ಸೈನ್ಸ್ ಫೋರಮ್ನ ಸೆಕ್ರೆಟ್ರಿ ಅವರು. ಇವರು ಬಸವನಗುಡಿ, ಜಯನಗರ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಡೆಗಳಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಅವರು ನಿರಂತರವಾಗಿ ಭಾಳ ಆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಆಗಿ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಾನು ಭಾಳ ದಿನಗಳಿಂದ ನಾನು ಮೇಡಮ್ನ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಆಯೋಜಿಸಿಕೊಟ್ಟಂಥ ನಿಮಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ಪರವಾಗಿ ನಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಹೃತ್ಪೂರ್ವಕವಾದ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು ಮೇಡಮ್. ಹಾಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಸಹೋದ್ಯೋಗಿ ಮಿತ್ರರಾದಂಥ ಮಂಜಾಸ್ ಸರ್ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಅವ್ರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಉಪಸ್ಥಿತರಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವ್ರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಹೃತ್ಪೂರ್ವಕವಾದ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳನ್ನು ತಿಳಿಸ್ತೀನಿ. ಹಾಗೆಯೇ ಕಾಲೇಜಿನ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ, ಮತ್ತು ಹಾಗೆ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ಬಹಳ ಪ್ರಮುಖವಾದಂಥ ಕೇಂದ್ರ ಬಿಂದುಗಳಾಗಿರುವಂಥ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳು, ನಿಮಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಈ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೃತ್ಪೂರ್ವಕವಾದ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳನ್ನು ತಿಳಿಸ್ತೇನೆ. ಹಾಗೆ ಆಸಿಫ್ ಅಣ್ಣ ಭಾಳ ಪ್ರಮುಖ. ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ನಡಿಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ರೀತಿಯ ಆಯೋಜನೆಗಳನ್ನ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಡುವಂಥ ಕೆಲಸ ಜವಾಬ್ದಾರಿ ಅವ್ರದ್ದಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಈ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಅವ್ರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಹೃತ್ಪೂರ್ವಕವಾದ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳನ್ನು ತಿಳಿಸ್ತೀನಿ. ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾಗವಹಿಸಿದಂಥ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಪ್ರತ್ಯಕ್ಷವಾಗಿ ಪರೋಕ್ಷವಾಗಿ ಕಾರಣಕರ್ತರಾದಂಥ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಹೃತ್ಪೂರ್ವಕವಾದ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು. ಬಿ ಸೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಹುಡುಗರು ಲ್ಯಾಬ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗಬೇಕಾಗಿದೆ. ಬೇರೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಯಾವ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೋ ಆ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಲಂಚ್. ಓಕೆ, ಲಂಚ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಸರ್.